welcome back to California Life Podcast. Today we have a very interesting, exciting topic, a topic which one of them was romanticized by Hollywood. We all know about mafia. We all know about James Bond and the stories behind the spies and the networks of spies. One more profession, specialty, which was also romanticized in different ways by Hollywood and the news, was lobbying. And today I have a very special guest, which I'm privileged to sit down and talk today. A professional lobbyist back then, a very successful business coach today, Mr. Nick Warner.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Nick, thank you for joining us today. And also, we're hosted by the Uzbek Cuisine restaurant. I wanted to share with you something special. I was hoping that you've never tasted this cuisine. So after the podcast interview is done, we'll enjoy the cuisine. But back to the romantic stories behind lobbying. You started as a lobbyist. Now you are a business coach. You had a very interesting career development. What is lobbying? Because what we know from Hollywood, it's talks behind the closed doors, billions of dollars, manipulations, all these kind of cool things that people love to watch. What is it in reality?
You have to add martinis and cigars to the romanticization.
Right.
I'm not sure any of that's actually true. Maybe a little bit's true, but I mean, in essence, what it is you're somebody's representative.
Right.
Another word for a lobbyist is legislative representative.
Right.
So on the theory that people have full-time jobs, they're running their companies, they're running their governments, they're running their county, they're running their labor organization. They need a representative, just like you need a representative in a courtroom setting.
Right.
You need a representative to literally represent you in the halls of the Capitol. There is some of that goes on, the romanticization. Maybe some of what Hollywood is saying is true, but at its core level, a lobbyist is a trusted advisor.
Right.
And you don't become a trusted advisor by being fancy. You don't become a trusted advisor by martinis, money, cigars, backslapping. You become a trusted advisor by being solid in your craft, by understanding the issues in front of you and being able to make straight-faced arguments that legislators and policy makers trust, because you're a trusted broker, a trusted advisor, and a trusted representative for their business or their government or their organization.
What made you interested in becoming a lobbyist?
Some of it was not knowing what I wanted to do and needing a job at 23 years old. So I'd gone to UC Davis to study political science. I did an internship in Washington, D.C. that kind of wet my whistle a little bit for like, this is very interesting. Mm-hmm. But I thought I was going to law school, Victor. And right before I went to law school, I kind of pulled up and went, I don't really know why I'm doing this. I'm going to spend $80,000 just because I think I might want to do this. So I got a job working in a restaurant, waiting tables. And I got lucky and got a job also at the same time with Capital Weekly newspaper. And they sent me into the Capitol to cover new legislator profiles. Right. It was the same year as term limits. So there was a huge turnover in the legislature. So I was interviewing new legislators, and it dawned on me, I don't want to be doing the interviewing. I want somebody to interview me. Okay. I want to be a doer, not a coverer, if you will.
Right.
But I really liked the fact, if I'm being honest, the thing that caught my attention was there's a lot of young people here in suits, and they seem to be making a difference at 23, 24, 25 years old. Mm-hmm. So I ran into a friend of mine who I knew from the dorms at UC Davis, who had a job working for then Assemblymember Bill Lockyer, who became the head of the Senate and also was the treasurer, the controller. So he had an early job there. And I remember saying something like, dude, if you can get me a job doing this, I'd love to do something like this. And he said, Democrat, Republican, lobbyist, staffer. And I think I said something like, if it pays $20,000 a year, I'll take it. I don't really care. I just need a job. And I got really fortunate. I got a job in substance out of the gate as a legislative analyst with the California Probation, Parole, and Correctional Association, which was frankly a law enforcement facing organization. And I didn't have any experience in that, but right away I liked the kind of the human chess match. I liked the policy. I liked understanding your situation and fitting it into what my client cared about. Mm-hmm. And I had a great mentor. My boss was amazing. Susie Cohen is her name. She's in her 80s now, but today is still one of my top mentors. And I get to follow her around. I get to see it as a 23-year-old kid, what it looked like behind the scenes. And it wasn't fancy. Right. It was policy-based. And that really shaped my experience. And so as I went along, I got fortunate and was recruited by the County Supervisors Association, and that put me in a world of people that were making decisions, that had higher level jobs, that were running cities and counties, and took that across the street to the Capitol as their legislative representative, and really started to understand the importance of the position, right, especially as it relates to public policy.
Right. How did you balance How did you balance this job? Because to me, in my understanding, being a lobbyist, you represent one party, and what they want might not be the most beneficial to someone else involved.
Yeah. When you say party, do you mean Republican or Democrat?
No,
Or organization.
Organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's difficult. I think you're always checking frame of reference. Like my organization cares, but why should you care about that? So you're constantly thinking about what's their frame of reference. Why should the legislator care? Why should the other organization that's opposed care? And trying to find that middle ground if you can. And if not, you try to kill it, amend it, redirect it, or pass it over other people's objections. But I think listening is a really important skill, and listening for where there may be a convergence or a confluence of interest.
Which values did you take into consideration before making any decisions? Because, sometimes it's good for one party, one organization, sometimes it's for the other, and you're kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I think for me, it's who's my client. I mean, I represent a client. I'm their representative, but I also have to be at work the next day. So if you bowl somebody over, if you won it by force and might, and you won absolutely, somebody lost absolutely, it makes it tough to come back to work the next day and work with that person.
Right.
So trying to keep a long view, both for myself and more importantly for the organization that I might have been representing at the time. I worked for the county supervisor for 3 years, from 24 to 27.
Right.
I got 3 job offers from groups I was working with, and I said, if I started a firm and I came back as a consultant, would you hire me individually? And they all said, yeah, that'd be great. So then it gets even more complicated, because you don't just have one organization. You have, I mean, at the height of my firm, before I sold it, I had probably 35 different organizations. So you're not only thinking about the person on the other side of the table in the legislature, but you're also having to think about the balance of the portfolio you represent, that there aren't conflicts, that you're being transparent across the board with your clients and across the street. But I go back to trust, transparency, your word being good. And I think at times that allows you to fight, because you're not surprising them. You're fighting them eyeball to eyeball. They respect you. They understand. They may not like it, but you're being transparent and letting them know, here's where I'm going to fight you. Here's how I'm going to fight you. We can't have that. Truth, transparency, winning and losing gracefully, I think is a really important quality. But you better bring some oomph. You better bring some might, or in this legislature, you're going to get rolled over.
Right.
So it's a big kid sport, quite frankly.
Right. Well, it's like we say in Hollywood, you don't have any power until you have all the power, in a way.
Yeah, in a way.
In terms of your business, back then, you have a client who you represent. I assume you're paid by the client to represent them, their organization. What if what they want doesn't align or didn't align with your values?
That's a great question.
How do you balance that?
That's a great question. And I get asked that question a fair amount. I used to as a former lobbyist. And thankfully, I think you get it on the front end, especially if you're fortunate to own the firm. You attach yourself to groups and to people that you align with, and you try to watch doing things just for money, because it doesn't usually line up well. So I had 2 categories: either real passion for what we're doing, law enforcement being in particular. And I was the head law enforcement representative, for example, for the California State Sheriff's Association. So we represent all the elected sheriffs in the state of California. Tremendous honor, tremendous responsibility. And then down the line, from probation chiefs to law enforcement record supervisors to law enforcement dispatchers, like an amazing passion, and so blessed to be able to do this. Right. And the second category is clients that are professionalized, they need quality representation, and it's kind of business doing business. It's a land use issue, it's a tax issue, it's a revenue sharing issue, but it's not a passion, it's not a life's work issue, and they need credible representation too. Just like somebody would a lawyer where there's a criminal trial, it's, a really big deal, but there's also rank and file things where you need a contract from a lawyer, and that's fine too. What we won't do is go into that third category where others might, is, hey, we need the money, we got to do this. So an example for me was, you're not getting back to people in a timely manner. You're blowing people up in these meetings and really making us look unprofessional. An example was, there was a bill years ago, and I still remember this as a really painful chapter for me, that involved Right to Die, Death with Dignity Act. And I represented the Coroners Association. And their issue was, if somebody takes a pill or there's physician-assisted suicide, there's a lot of room for malfeasance in that. There's a lot of room for, frankly, for murderous activity. And so if a law enforcement official, say a coroner, decides we need to do an inquest or an inquiry into this because there's potential foul play, we need an amendment to allow these professionals to do that. Right. It wasn't an easy amendment to get, but we got the amendment. And when I brought it back to the board of directors of this organization at the time, years ago, they said, well, we're kind of seeing this as a moral religious issue as much as a coroner issue, so we're going to stay opposed. And that really put me in an ethical bind, because whether I disagreed or not, which wasn't the point, I represent your profession, not the church. And frankly, my guess is of this board of directors, there's probably 5 or 6 different religions, if not more. So that put me in a real ethical bind in terms of, you've already said yes to the amendment the committee has. We need to remove our opposition, and you're taking a religious stand for a professional organization. That was a tough one. We got through that. I got through that by making a straight-faced argument to them that they were hurting their reputation and thus mine at the same time. And I'm not asking you to back off your religious convictions, your personal, but this is a professional organization. So we got through that. Others where we didn't get through it was, I mentioned before, the way you're treating people.
Right.
So I represent you, but in a way you represent me. So I set this meeting up that's important, and you're acting the fool. You're blasting this person that agreed to meet with us, and you're getting on a plane and going back to New York, but I'm not. I have to see Victor the next day. So, treating my staff poorly is another thing that would get me to question the ethics of whether this is a good fit for us. We go to battle for you. We're a team here, and you're treating us poorly. You're treating us like digits, or you're treating us like, we'll just have the lobbyists go do it. Just the lobbyists will go do it. Like, that gets my attention. This is a partnership. It's a team sport. So we need to act a certain way, which doesn't mean to say we can't fight. We can fight, but we need to have a certain professional decorum, and we need to stick to our positions. So these are some of the things that will cause ethical issues. Another one for me was going to work every day for a period of time to raise the vehicle license fee, to raise taxes on people. That felt like a quandary to me when the state was going bankrupt some years ago. I forget the exact years, but it was like early 2000s, say. Right. I mean, we had a $25 or $27 billion deficit, and the capital power structure wanted to take law enforcement and counties off general fund and move us to special funding, which meant they want to increase the vehicle license fee. So I'm going to work every day trying to convince legislators to increase taxes. The way that I squared that up, my staff squared that up, was the end was noble. The end was law enforcement, public safety, and public sector. The means seemed iffy to me, and I don't know that I've completely squared that up, but what I thought about was, if the end is justified, then the means within those should be justified. But I'm still not sure how I feel about that. I didn't love going to work every day to increase people's taxes.
Right. If you could share with us some of the maybe funny and ridiculous situations with yourself and clients and legislatures.
I remember one in particular. This is before whatever the proposition was that said you only need a majority to pass a state budget. It used to be a 2/3 vote. So Republicans, before there was a supermajority of Democrats, we used to need Republicans to weigh in. And so law enforcement does pretty well with Republicans. So I remember sitting in a cafe, it was probably midnight, and they were open because the Capitol was open, and I get a call from the Speaker of the Assembly's office saying the Speaker would like to see you. And I thought, oh, good, game on. So I rushed myself over to the Capitol and found myself in the room with the top agricultural lobbyist. And what they said was, what the Speaker of the Assembly said, I'm going to leave his name out just for probably obvious reasons. What he said to me and this other lobbyist was, we have $12 million. We need 4 votes. You can have the whole 12 million for your client. You can go get me 4 votes. You got 12 hours, then we bring in the next group. I thought that was both really cool, really interesting, and really weird. I'm a lobbyist, and you're giving me, I'm authorized with $12 million. I'm pulling legislators off the floor saying, do you need a police station? Do you need a dam? Do you need and the agricultural lobbyist is trying to basically make the same point about whatever mitigations they were trying to get. In that case, we were able to get the votes, but I never lost that. I thought that was both an interesting, dirty, also creative way. But lobbyists play really interesting roles because these legislators trusted us and they didn't trust the power structure. So go get us votes.
That was a very good story. Would you say that it's close to be correct if we compare lobbyists with brokers on the Wall Street? Movers and shakers of the market in a way?
No, you start with the comparison. Tell me why you bring that up.
Just curious if I get a correct feeling.
I think brokering, like the word brokering is true in terms of I'm brokering conversations between this person and that person, and I'm brokering deals back and forth. So brokering in terms of, you think about a real estate agent where you have a buyer and a seller, and like, let me come back, let me talk to my client, and let me come back and broker a deal, helping them talk. They are opposed, but that's not what they mean. That's not, they're saying this, but I'm talking to them behind the scenes, and there's more to it than that. It's not just they're dumb. It's not just they said no. There's more to it. So brokering understanding, I think, is a big part also. because you're close to these people, you trust them,
Right.
and they're telling you what their motivations are. And so a lot of times you can broker back and forth.
Right.
Yeah, I think I do think it's a analogy that's closer than further.
What about the Wall Street? Brokers on the Wall Street who are pushing deals and, at least used to.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat similar. I'm not as familiar with the Wall Street dynamic. When you say Wall Street, I think frenetic. And I think like the floor of Wall Street and the floor of the Senate or the lobby of the Senate or the Assembly, it is frenetic. It's really high stakes for those of us that work at a high level of the business. I'm working for Motorola, Verizon, the County of Los Angeles, the elected sheriffs, the state of California, Chrysler, Fiat. You can't get it wrong. You cannot get it wrong, especially if it's one bill that requires a worldwide company to retool their entire operations for one state, because there's a lot of pressure in that. So those component pieces of Wall Street for sure. The end game, I'm not quite as sure about, but brokering, we want this deal and this person can make the deal. Yeah, very similar. Yeah, I've never thought about it that way. I think it's a good analogy. The forums are different.
Right.
One's financial, one's policy.
Right.
One requires a lot of people to sign off. One probably does not.
Right.
Being Wall Street.
Right.
But yeah, similar component pieces. I like the analogy quite a bit.
How did you deal with the stress and with the pressure? Because you look quite good and you've been in this field for quite a while. How did you deal with stress?
Poorly. Yeah, I had to work myself to that. I appreciate you saying I look good and I feel good and my numbers back it up. It's a really hard job.
Yeah.
And I wore it hard. I suffer from carrying a lot and I internalize things, which is both a strength and a weakness. Yeah, poorly, especially up through my 30s. I got successful really young. And so I hope as a business coach, it helps me help others, because I really struggle with that. I struggle health-wise, I struggle temperament-wise. I started at home. I've had more than a couple conversations with my wife about temperament, with my sister about temperament, my temperament. You're not the boss at home. This is not a vote. This is also coming in the threshold of the house. And like Colin Powell, a former general, used to talk about changing the weather. He meant for the good, but I wasn't changing the weather for good. I was coming home from stressful days on the phone with the governor's chief of staff, on the phone with an elected official, coming through the threshold of my house with 2 little kids and a wife who have not been doing that all day. I made a lot of mistakes, It hurt my health. I didn't know how to staff up. So I was carrying the whole load on my own because I worked so hard. I don't want to give the money away. Right. And then you reach out to mentors, coaches, for people that tell you, if you hire the right people, you'll be able to grow the business and maybe work less and stress less. Because I was doing the basic things like writing letters and then talking to the governor in the same day. And it was ripping me apart, to be honest. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know that asking for help wasn't necessarily a sign of weakness. It could be a sign of strength. Right. I didn't understand how to grow a business, so I reached out for help. But I got shellacked a few times health-wise, and I ran into some brick walls that have informed my career path, frankly. I'm a really hard charger, and it really served me well business-wise, and it hurt my body. And so I've had to work myself out of that. I've had to go to mentors, even during that period, who helped me understand, don't let it get so deep in your soul. Like, there's a level it can get you, but if it gets deeper than that, it's going to crush you. And that came from people I respected that would show me a little bit of vulnerability. I remember being down in the parking lot of my building. It was late at night, maybe 7:30, 7:45, late for a work day. And a guy that I really respected was kind of off to my right, shutting his trunk. And I said, "Hey, Jim, good to see you, man. Like, how you doing?" He goes, "Depends how you feel about prostate cancer and divorce." I was like, "I thought you were Superman. Like, what do you mean?" He goes, "I'm struggling with some stuff right now." So I reached out to him shortly thereafter and asked, "Can we get a cup of coffee? Because I'm 38 and I'm struggling with the stress of this job." It was transformative for me to get to some people like that and get this different perspective. Stressful. Nothing worth doing is ever easy, and it came at a price. So I'm able to spot it in others. I'm able to help people grow their businesses and work on their mind a little bit. Mostly because I made mistakes and I have a lot of pain from it, but I've been able to work myself out of that. And thanks for noticing, frankly. Yeah. Appreciate that. Course, yeah. I think I always look good on the outside, but I was struggling on the inside. I don't mean emotionally, I mean physically. It's really hard on the body. So I had to develop tools in my early 40s, mid 40s. By the time I hit 50, I had the tools. And I don't feel like I'm the same person physically or mentally. Right. Well, which I hope is a good thing. As you age, you're supposed to develop wisdom and gather wisdom. Definitely. And a lot of mine was from hitting the wall, a stethoscope, a look for my wife, a look for my sister, a look in the mirror. Level up. You're not a young pugilist anymore. You're an emerging business leader, and people are looking to you and at you and modeling your behavior. Right. So it got me here, but what got me there wasn't going to get me to the next stage. So, yeah, great question. It's like you're bearing into my soul asking that question.
That's a great story. That's a great story to learn from you. Well, let's step aside from this. I don't want to have too much of the internal things bother you. In your game back then, you worked with your clients, and to me, it's pretty straightforward and obvious that you have the connection that they need, so they follow you. Now, what tools did you have, or maybe what leverage did you have when working with the politicians? Because you had to make them listen to you. What was the game here?
Yeah, I think it's less of a game than it's of substance. You're as good as who you represent. You're as good as who you're selling. So I don't care how good of a salesperson you are. If you don't have good product, you're gonna really struggle. So we really focused on who we were representing and then getting them organized in a way that we could give a professional response, a timely response, a substance-based response. So I think the biggest thing is who you represent, because that gets you in the game. And then being professionalized from there, understanding that you have to have a legislative committee. You need one person speaking. We need to filter information up. I need to know on all these topics, who do I call? Because I know a lot, but you know more.
Right.
So the challenge is to marry up what the lobbyist knows with what the client knows. But the biggest thing is represent credible interest and you will have credibility. Now, that's not enough. That's like saying, you know, I'm a salesperson for Oracle and I just get out of bed and I meet my quota. That's not enough. You have a good company, but you need to go work that.
Right.
So pounding pavement. I used to, and this is just Nick for Nick, I would start on the 6th floor and I would do what I call troll for trouble. I would walk the floors of the Capitol all the way down to the 1st floor, and then I'd go J Street, L Street. If you can picture any Capitol probably in America, there's a beltway, there's a, you know, an area where there's Capitol denizens, if you will, but I would troll for trouble. I would learn more than anybody else. I would follow mentors around for sure. So it starts with who you represent, and then who you hire also, Victor.
Right.
Who you hire, I mean, are you hiring lower level people to come in and on the client's dime and the client's back learn their craft on the client's dime? Or are you willing to spend the money to get somebody that's seasoned, who understands, and you're putting them in front of legislators and their staff in very credible situations? I think knowing what you don't know is really important.
Right.
I think some lobbyists and some representatives, if you will, whether it's legal or regulatory, legislative, they try to be all things to all people. And there's certain areas where you know it inside out and you're totally credible to go to the microphone or go to the meeting and speak. And there's other times where you need a phone a friend or you need an expert sitting next to you. And to say, I brought an expert with me in anticipation of these questions because he or she is able to answer for the organization. But it's all trust-based. I think just like sales, it's trust-based. And if you pierce that trust ever, you go backward from there. And that's as much fighting as I've done, as much disagreeing as there is in the business. I don't think I've ever breached trust. And I've never surprised, I try never to surprise anybody.
Right. Right. Well, it's a very interesting topic because from my experience in communicating with the politicians, you always have to have some sort of leverage that they would be interested in or be afraid of. So if it's not Epstein files, then it should be probably a big organization or an association with a lot of voters.
Yeah. I think you have to be able to create consequence. It's not my favorite part of that part of the business, but I think you have to be able to create consequence in order to get some version of your way. And if you're going to consequence all the time, if you're going to consequence 50% or 60% or 70% of the time, something's wrong. You should be able to work a lot of those things out, either make them go away or work them out better ways. But there's a time and a place where you need to show them and not tell them. And until you can stand that vote up, and they're not going to come back happy. Like, the bill stalled out, Nick. I know, Senator. Like, we stalled it out. The 4 abstentions are for us. Like, we've been talking about this issue. We need to talk about this issue because they're listening to me, because we're bringing their constituents to make the case. I'm making the case. We're giving them examples. We're taking them on tours, and they're not voting for a reason. So you want to talk? Not to say it always works, but if you can't create consequence, you're going to get the stiff arm is what you're going to get.
Right. Right.
You've seen the stiff arm where the running backs go in the end zone and they try to tackle them and just stiff arms them. That's what you get.
Right.
Thanks, Nick. Can't have it. Can't have it. Won't have it. Doesn't mean I'll win. All the time or will win all the time. And you got to win and lose gracefully, but we're their representative, and if it's on certain issues, we're going to go to the mat. If you can create consequence, you'll get paid attention to it. If not, you get rolled over.
Right.
It's a big kid sport. I think I already said that, but it is a big kid sport.
Right.
With the victors and the pains.
Among all of your battles, let's call them battles, how many would you say you had knockouts? How many you had draws? How many losses? How many wins by points? If we compare that with boxing.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, there's so many bills in a session. If you're an involved lobbyist, we might have been involved in 200 bills. So one of my competitors had on his website that he'd never lost on a bill that he'd been paid to engage on. And I thought to myself, you are leaving a ton of meat on the bone for your client. You're not engaging on the tough issues. If you're not losing once in a while, that's where it's different from boxing. Because if you're losing all the time in boxing, A, you're punch drunk, and B, you're probably not getting the big fights. But in lobbying, if you're taking big fights, you're going to lose sometimes. And sometimes you just move it forward a little bit. And you either get a small change in law or you get somebody to say, not this year, but we can talk about it in the interim. Like, oh, they're saying we got a chance.
Right.
It's the first time they said we got a chance. Maybe I'm going to hold their bill up. Like, okay, we'll talk. By hook or by crook. I mean, if you're going to survive at the highest level of the business, your win rate is way higher than your loss rate, but you're also advising your client on the front end. It's similar to saying, let me go back to your Wall Street analogy to say, how often do you win on a stock if you're a broker versus how often you lose on a stock? Well, we win more often as we try to avoid the losses. We try to ferret them out. So we're advising clients on the front end about the worlds of possibilities, what it means. You can win, but you're going to lose on the back end by this. If you push this, they're going to get you over here. So we try to not mitigate the losses, but get it properly positioned for the fights, if you will, and for the push, if you will. So that should mitigate the losses and accentuate the wins. But it's hard to push these bigger boulders uphill. Sometimes they're 5 and 7 and 10-year fights that don't go loss-win. They go loss, little bit of win, loss, little more win, politics realign, win.
Like stock
parties change, loss. Yeah, like the stock market, very similar to the stock market.
If we stick to the boxing comparison, who would you compare yourself to in boxing world? Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield?
Come on, it's so good. Sugar Ray Leonard.
Sugar Ray, I know this gentleman.
Sugar Ray.
I
mean, that's giving myself a lot of credit. Super charismatic, packed a punch, could dance because he didn't always want to throw a punch.
Yeah.
People liked him more than not, but if you went the wrong way, he's going to knock you out.
Oh, yeah.
But he's trying to love, not hate.
Yeah.
I think Sugar Ray.
And he's very humorous.
Very humorous, very charismatic.
Yeah.
Don't mess around.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. No, he is great. Yeah, we met a couple of times, and I've had nothing but great experience talking to him. And
lucky you.
He's a great gentleman. Now, I would like to talk about this pivotal moment when you decided to sell your firm and then turn towards business consulting. What was the last piece of rice on this scale to make you choose this path?
Yeah, the last piece of rice on the scale was my incredibly talented staff and at the time junior partners, where I realized over time, because we sold internally and I owned the firm 25 years and we were able to do a slow ascension, some reasoned training, some organized training for the next. That was the last piece of rice for me was they got this. Mm-hmm. And I'm taking the lion's share, or at least the biggest share of the money out of the firm as the owner and as the managing partner. And at some point, the value is not matching what I'm taking away from the next generation. Mm-hmm. And as a top lobbyist, the way I became a business coach was running my own organization in a healthy way over time.
Right.
Being able to work out a succession plan. And then I mentioned just a handful of the clients we work with, because I had a team of 6 registered lobbyists, all of whom frankly were better than me at the craft. My clients were bringing me to their executive suites. They were having me help them with team building, set their agendas, build teams in other states, help them build international teams. They were bringing me in at inception. And so my field view started to go like that. And I realized my firm is on really solid ground. Not only did not need me, but the ethical thing to do is, let's get me out of there, leave the money and the juice in the firm, and let me go pursue a second career. So it was literally a win-win situation. And I had 30 years of wear and tear on me. I owned the firm for 25 years, but before that, I was, as I mentioned, California Probation, Parole, and Correctional Association, and the county supervisors. I started that at 23. And so you look up 20 plus years later, 25 years later, they go, you're young, you're only 51. I go, yeah, but in dog years. I'm worn, like I started this early and I got to a high level at a young age. And so really blessed to have an amazing team. That was the final straw, the final piece of rice on the scale was they got it. Mm-hmm. After this much training, you guys want it, you got it, they got it.
Right.
So that was it. That was the opportunity to.
Well, I'm truly surprised when you're mentioning that when you're 51, 50, I wouldn't give you more than 41.
I'm 55 now.
Well, you look definitely much younger.
Thank you. It's a nice thing to say.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. That's how I see it.
Thank you.
So you've decided to leave the business to your team and you decided to pursue another direction. How much work did you have to do to rebrand yourself? Now I'm not a lobbyist, I'm a business coach.
Some, but I didn't see this coming the way it actually hit. I had some business coaching clients coming out, and they were primarily existing lobbying clients who said to me, we really want your help. And again, I mentioned team building, with our policy setting, how do we expand our business in California? So I had some clients coming out, but I meant to retire, Victor. I thought I was going to retire, but I liked this business coaching thing. And then I started to love this business coaching thing. I started to realize, oh, my job is to help people.
Right.
I'm not fighting anymore.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I know a lot. I've been through a lot of situations, and people are coming to me for, can I get your fresh experience, eyes and ears on my career and my company? And saying things like, yeah, I want to meet again next month. Oh, okay. I guess I want to meet again next month also. And then I started to do a little bit of LinkedIn. Then I professionalized through digital marketing. Then somebody called me and said, hey, I saw your LinkedIn. I really think you're ripe for a podcast. I'm like, I think you have the wrong number. No, I don't. I mean to be calling you. Okay. So I started listening differently because it sounds cheesy, but it filled my heart up. Yeah. Like, it turns out I love to help, and that is my job, and there's budgets for it. I didn't know that. So early on, I thought I was going to be an executive business coach where I would consult the CEO, I consult the managing partner, and I was. It was going well. And then they started to say to me, could you work with some of our up-and-comers? Sure. Could you work with our emerging leaders? Yeah. Hey, would you do a team build? And I said, I don't do team building. I do executive coaching. I went, I think you might do team building. I want to participate with my team, because if I run it, it's a staff meeting. Can you run it? Sure, I'll try that. And then I did that and got back to my car and was like, that was so fun. And they want me back. Mm-hmm. I also work in confidential situations, meaning my business coaching sessions are strictly confidential. So I get to hear a lot about their life, about their finances, about the way they're experiencing their bosses, for example. So I really fell in love with it and found out I really like to help people, it turns out. And there's a market for this. So I committed to it because I love it. I didn't see that coming. And it's gone really well as a result. I say no a lot, to be honest. I have a no assholes and no know-it-alls policy. I've already done that part of my business. Mm-hmm. I've been dealing with big business and big legislature, governor's office, state agencies, lots of know-it-alls and lots of tough guys and gals. I still have probably some tough, really successful people, but they're humble and they come to me for, I would like to get your fresh experience, eyes and ears on my situation. And at times I feel like, me? You're asking me? You have a bigger, higher level job than I've ever had. Right. But I've been in those rooms and I've been advising those people and I'm able to see the playing field. So for the right people where there's a match, it's gone really, really well. But it's that experience and frankly, including the pain and mistakes that has allowed me to move over. But I meant to retire and dabble in this, and that's not the way it's worked out. And I'm purposeful in it. I'm not going to give up the piece that I earned through the buyout in the 30 years. Mm-hmm. But I'm applying myself in a way that I think really helps people, not just the bosses, but their employees as well. And they love it and I love it. And I pinch myself almost every day that I get to do it. I haven't had one day. I had a lot of bad days at work as a lobbyist. Right. And I liked it overall. An example would be a cop who came out and had some really tough days and was really stressful and got to the other side. Mm-hmm. And you go, would you do that again? They go, yeah, I would. It was a lot, but I would. I feel that way about lobbying. Right. And I never could have done this business coaching without the pain, the pressures, the good bosses, the bad bosses, the good companies, the bad companies. And now I can see iterations and striations that I haven't seen before. And I've had to get through a lot of situations, and a lot of them I won, a lot of them I didn't. But I just fell in love with it and decided to follow my passions. So you switched from being Sugar Ray on the battlefield into becoming a Castomato for the new upcoming athletes, business people. Yeah. Do you have a little pattern or maybe a block of questions which you use to analyze the first upcoming client? I do. I ask you on onboarding, what do you love? What do you hate? What are you good at? What do you suck at? What do you want to do more of? And what do you want to do less of? And then when you're coming to me as a coach, what do you want to work on? Because especially as you're ascending, you have more options to not do the things you hate or you suck at. Let's keep you in your genius to the extent we can. Right. So that's what I'm trying to help people see. And then also as people are ascending in their career, there's a propensity to do your old job and your new job. So you become a supersized individual contributor, which has a victim. It's the person behind you when you're doing their job and they can't grow. So oftentimes I'm trying to pry their hands off the previous job. Do you trust the person who's working for you? Yeah. why are you doing their job for them? Like, why don't you give them a little breathing room? Well, I'm so used to doing it myself. Okay, but you're really hurting somebody doing that. So,
you mentioned a little earlier that your first career in lobbying had a bit of impact on your health and also your family. And then you became a business coach. How did you use experience from the first career and now the second one to keep your family strong and healthy and to help it develop and flourish?
yeah, I mean, I think I aged out of that stage for me, for my kids and my family. I think maybe I didn't age out, but I was able to ascend out of the trenches, if you will. And so just that on the natural was helpful. Having people working for you that are credible, that know what they're doing, having an organization that can sustain without you, that's not a practice based on Nick or based on Victor. It's a organization that can sustain a vacation, a sickness, that definitely helped a lot.
Right.
And then in this new role, as Pollyanna as it sounds, I'm just there to help. So for me, it has the opposite effect. It fills me up. It's a health generator,
right,
not a health detractor.
Right.
But you know what it helps me do? It helps me spot it. It helps me spot the grinding teeth. I heard that, did you say 85 hours? Tell me about your 85 hours. That was this morning. I've worked 100 hours last week, 100 hours, because I clocked 85 hours this week. That's the fourth. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your calendar. Let's go over a calendar audit. Making a lot of money. And then did you say something about credit card debt? Do you mind? Can I ask permission to go back to that? Because you're sailing your yacht out of the harbor, your boat out of the harbor at your $300,000 a year with credit card debt at 18%. You're going to sink by the time you get to the breakwater. If you'll allow me to give you input on that as either an emerging or emergent leader, somebody who's already made it, we should talk about that because there's pain involved. You're going to work this hard with nothing to show for it? Or we've been talking to your team about modeling correct leadership behavior, and 3 people on your staff told me you're interrupting them at the first sentence every single time they open their mouth. And once I hear that pattern, that I'm able to, I want to make sure I'm not outing anybody.
Right.
So if it's one particular person telling me that on a random Tuesday, I'm not bringing that up the chain. But I hear patterns and practice of, what I'm hearing from your team is that we're not making enough progress here. Or what I'm hearing from your team is you're shutting them up and shoving it down their throat. God, I'm sorry. I gotta do better on that. Okay, let's do better. But these are mistakes I've made also, so it helps me spot them and work through it with them.
Right.
Being a supersized individual contributor, you're spending all this money on this team and you're doing all the work for them. Every time they open their mouth, you reply every time you answer the question. I know the answer. We know, Victor. Can somebody else answer the question? So I'm trying to use the mistakes, the pain, some of the success to help others.
Right.
But the one thing I have that I think really helps me help others is I was able to run and maintain a healthy office culture for all the years we ran it. Not to say we didn't have a thing here or there, but we were able to maintain a team atmosphere.
Right.
That team exists to this day. So I can feel and spot unhealthy because it doesn't feel right. Top down doesn't feel right. You're not taking enough input. Your meeting structure is not good. You're not listening at all. You're losing people you don't mean to lose is a big indicator. Tell me again, that's a third person this year you've lost and got surprised by. So when you're getting surprised, that tells me you're probably not talking enough to your key people. Have you ever heard of a stay interview? What's that? Or you ask the person, how we doing? How's it going? Like, do you need anything from me? Because you hear amazing things like, it's really going well, but it's super hard for me to get here at 8. It's just killing me dropping my kid off and getting here by 8. I go, I didn't know that. Why don't you tell me that? We can fix that.
Right.
The only way I found that, or like the travel's really, really hard on me and my family. Like, can I come Wednesday morning instead of Tuesday night? I'm like, not this year because you're presenting, but like, I'm so glad you told me that, but I'm hunting for that. I have to go find that. Right. It's not going to find me in the C-suite. It's not going to find me in the managing partner's office. So if you care, go find your people and ask them how it's going.
Right.
If you're a bigger organization, you might formalize that. Like CalPERS does formal stay interviews. There's lots of exit interviews, but at that point it's too late. So when Mercy Frost, the CEO of CalPERS, got done explaining to me how they organize their stay interviews, I thought to myself as a small business owner, oh good, I do that. I've never lost anybody I don't mean to lose. So I listen for that in other organizations and ask them, when you ask Victor how it's going or what his priorities are, what does he say? And this is what I get. What do you mean? When you ask Victor in your monthly meetings with your principals, I'm not doing that. Can you do that? And invariably they come back and they've learned a ton about their key employee by just asking probative questions.
Right.
It doesn't solve for it all, but it'll certainly help you see the playing field better.
Right.
Another example is, I'm really excited about promoting you. You've been unbelievable. I'm like pretty close to offering you the association management job. And she goes, I have been so worried about that. I can't take it. I have a young kid. I love this job. Can you professionalize this job? I can't travel. To which I said, I literally never thought about that. I could have put you in a terrible position. I'm so glad we're walking around Capitol Park right now.
Right.
Let me get back to you. Because I was going to promote her right out of a job that she and her family could absorb. So, I think running a healthy office, but also I've had some tyrant clients, bosses. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the line blurs. I remember my daughter saying to me over and over, I get confused, Daddy, are you the boss or you have bosses? Because I thought you were the boss. I am the boss, but I have clients,
right,
essentially bosses. And I've had some doozies, corporate heads, tech sales guys that are like, go, sell, and they're just, everybody around them's fleeing, and I'm watching this person go, that's not going to work. I'm not taking that with me. Or some super know-it-all bosses. Like, that's all that is doing, or micromanaging, is just stealing my joy. It's stealing my creativity.
Yeah.
So I had plenty of bad too, where I incorporate that and try to play that forward in my helping people, coaching people.
Right. Multiple times today when you were mentioning your clients in business consulting, you mentioned that sometimes something would interfere with their either travel or other duties and their family. Now, you have your experience, which is great experience, obviously. What is your advice to your clients, and maybe you could share with our viewers on how to maintain a healthy family relationship?
Yeah, I think the key thing is that you need to have social agreements with your spouse, and to some degree with your kids also, but more so with your spouse, of what it is. Mm-hmm. If you're going to move into this higher level position and be gone more, what does that mean? Let's get in front of that. If you're getting promoted to where you're traveling now, the thing I might ask is, hey, when you mention that to your husband, and what did he say? Like, I haven't said anything yet. Like, I really recommend you get out front of this because it's going to impact your family.
Right.
I had a situation the other day with a public, I guess it doesn't matter, public or private sector, but the public sector person in this case was telling me that he's having a really hard time getting his work done. And this is a really credible, high level, I really respect this person. And I asked questions, tell me how many hours you're working. Mm-hmm. And he goes, that's a big struggle for me, Nick, to be honest, because I'm dropping the kids off at school. He lives about 90 minutes from the office. I'm dropping the kids off at school, and by the time I get there, it's like 9:30, to be honest, by the time I sit down at my desk, and I'm leaving about 4:15, 4:30. I'm still getting my work done. I said, is there any way you can re-baseline that with your wife? Because that's not enough hours for this big job you have. It was enough hours, but not in this job. Mm-hmm. And his response, I didn't know what I was going to get. I was fishing, but I didn't know if there was fish there. And he said, oh, man, that's a really good idea. My wife has a different job and she's not leaving the same time. I didn't even think about reopening that with her. I said, yeah, get a different social agreement with her if there's a way to do that. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing. I think as kids get older, sharing with your kids what it is and why you're taking the call and why daddy or mommy can't be there, I think is really important. But a baseline of a social agreement with your family, I think is really important. I have a client in the medical space that is they're going to move their medical supply company from the extended Sacramento area up to Seattle. And there's 2 kids involved and a wife involved. And I've been asking questions about how they feel about it. In the last session we had, I said, how does your wife feel about it? He said, not great. And I said, I really think you need to back this up. Like, forgive me for getting involved in your personal life, but this is going to go kaboom on you. If you get up there and you haven't attended like what school your daughter's going to go to for her activities, your wife's got back this up, put her on hold and go talk to them. And she's like, he had a reaction that really got my attention. Something similar to, you've been saying that too. I'm really getting out in front of them. It's getting worse, not better. I said, I think you need to re-baseline the social agreement, find out what they care about. And what they really cared about was the daughter's social/sports activities, right, and the wife's social network. So we slowed it down. We're reaching out to people that he knows in the region. He's brought them up there a couple of times, and guess what? They're getting excited about it. Mm-hmm. But that's a recipe for trouble. I'm hearing space between you and your family, and I'm listening for it. Right. And I think it's going to get you in the end. And so in this case, I'm working with humble, successful people. Know-it-alls don't call me, and a-holes don't call me. Humble, successful people, sometimes more successful than I've been in terms of rank and title of CEO, as an example. they're still humans, and I've been in these situations, so I'm listening really carefully for what tripped me up, what tripped others up, and trying to apply, like, can we talk about that for a minute? Do you mind if I approach on a sensitive topic? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know that, because to me, it tells me that since you've accepted my invitation, I probably am not an asshole.
Not at all. On the contrary, you're curious is what you are. That's what has my attention. You're really successful, but endlessly curious, which is one of my favorite personality traits.
I appreciate your kind words. It means a lot to me. If I could ask you again another personal question, you mentioned right now about social agreement with your significant other, spouse. Can I ask you, what was your agreement when you were stressed out in your previous career? You were coming home as a general from a battlefield, still with a battlefield mindset, and it caused some distress, I would assume. What was your social agreement back then to have everything back to normal, strong, healthy in family?
I'm happy to tell you that when I talked to my daughters about this, they didn't experience it the way I'm guessing my wife did. And I know I did in my body and like in the mirror, if you will, because I've talked to them about drinking, temperament. They don't remember it that way, which I am so glad about. And I don't think I was terrible, but I also think I could have done a way better job changing the weather the other way or being neutral in the weather. So I think I was pretty square there. And I don't know that I ever figured it out when I was a lobbyist. I think we did the best we could. Mm-hmm. I think I did the best I could. I think, honestly, learning how to grow the business changed everything. I didn't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. My mindset was, I'm not going to work this hard and then give money away, right. $150,000 at a time to people. Yeah. And then having smart people around me. Frankly, I've had 3 business coaches, and 2 of those 3 really changed my life. Mm-hmm. The other was for a discrete purpose, but it taught me how to give money away to make money, to create sanity. And then over time to realize, like, they got it. Stop. Mm-hmm. Like, stop. Stay where you're supposed to be. I don't know if we ever redid the social agreement. An example that sticks out to me where I thought to myself, I never want to have this conversation again, was coming home and there were toys all over the floor, as kids will have. And for the umpteenth time in a row, I made some comment about, like, how messy does this house have to be? My whole work life's a mess. And I come home and I remember seeing tears well up in my wife's eyes, and she approached me some days later and said, do you want me to be on the floor playing with the kids, or do you want me to be picking their toys up all day? Because you can't have it both ways. And I'm choosing to play with them instead of clean up. Mm-hmm. And you need to figure this out, with tears. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm starting to read your book on relationships. I'm about halfway through, like, that's not what I mean to be doing in this life. I got to figure this out. So one of the things I would do, this isn't the social agreement. These are mechanisms where it was my end of the social agreement, because it was me. Right. Let's be honest, it was me, was get off the phone 15 minutes before you walk in that door. Get off the phone, because you're coming in hot. So I get off the phone, and then I would leave my phone in the car until about 9 or 9:15 when the kids went to bed. And then social agreement was, I got to go get my phone. Like, I understand. Governor's chief of staff's calling. Sometimes the governor was calling. Like, no joke. And if I have to miss it, I have to miss it. But there were too many times where just having that phone with me was creating this. I remember my wife saying to me, do you know how many times the kids have talked to the top of your head this week? I go, what do you mean? She goes, I don't want that. I don't want that. So, yeah, I don't know that we redid the social agreement. I think I try to pay attention and fix my part of it, because a lot of it was my part. And then also choosing to be a little bit happier. Like, I did well in the business. I worked really hard to get where I was. And at 51, I thought to myself, people don't usually retire from this business at 51. I signed papers at 50. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a move. I did well enough. I don't need all the money. I don't need all the anything. I got enough. Mm-hmm. I'm going to prioritize my health, eyeball to eyeball, right, with my wife, with my kids. My financial advisor said, I know you're going to fall in love with something. And my financial plan had me making, like, school teacher money, like maybe teaching junior college for the next bunch of years, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. He goes, that's not what's going to happen. I was like, Steve, I'm burnt out. I wasn't burnt out. Like, I don't think I want the stress anymore. He goes, that's not what I'm saying. You're going to fall in love with something. I know you. And I did. I fell completely head over heels in love with coaching. Right. But I had to make some mistakes to get there, and I really think it helps me with them. But I have had some social agreement with my wife that says, you do what you're doing, but my social agreement is you're not going to see that from me again. I don't want another talking to you about how you're not the boss here. Mm-hmm. You're not the boss at home. Like, I heard you and I understand, and I don't want to be that guy. My wife and I have 14 marriages, 13 marriages between our 4 parents, 13 marriages between 4 people. We've been married 30 years, been together 33, most of them blissful days even, like we really get along. And so I really value that. So I'm willing to listen, adjust. I don't always get it the first time. A former partner of mine said to me, Nick, you're the most amazing changer I've ever met. I go, it's because I screw up all the time. I have a lot of evolving to do to not make the same mistakes I've seen around me. So it's turbulent, but I am really proud of the fact that I think I'm markedly better. And yeah, I mean, all the things that get you here that make you great will also be a problem. Your intensity, your work ethic, your go-get-em, you don't take no for an answer. Not at home, not with your friends. So, you know, we grow and evolve.
Right. Well, that's the most important. If you are evolving, if you're better today than yesterday, that's what matters.
I hope so.
Comparing to other people.
Yeah. Can I tell you one thing my wife said to me that gave me an indicator that maybe I was doing well? We were at dinner and somebody said, the couple said, hey, how is Nick post-lobbying? And she said, lighter. And we drove home that night and I thought, A, thank you, and B, sorry that it was heavy, but I'm so glad to know that it's lighter. I don't think I would trade it. I don't think any more than the cop would trade it at the end when he or she's like, man, that was a lot. Would you do it again? Yeah, I think I would. I would. But I love that I got out when I got out so I could not enjoy the fruits of the money or the success, but do something that I really am passionate about. And I just pinch myself that I found something like that.
Right.
I didn't know I could feel this way about work, helping others.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. What would you say is, or could be, a quote that would represent you, your growth, and also could be a motivational quote for our viewers?
Hope is not a strategy. It's not enough. You got to put a plan to that. You got to have goals for that. I really hope this works out. I hope we have the votes. There's 7 members of the committee. What does that mean? I really want to get better at this. Like, okay, well, how are you going to get better at this? I'm super disorganized, right? What's the plan? Hope is not a strategy. It's not going to get you there. Recognizing the opportunity, the problem, whatever it is, and like, let's get a plan and get after it. Let's measure it. Let's stick to it. Let's put it on a board. But I hunt for hope and I listen for hope. This should work out. It'll be all right. I'll do better. Like, it'll be fine. Well, what's the plan? I'm going to bring this to the board. I really hope it passes. Like, don't say that to me. What's the plan? My other thing, it's not exactly responsive to your question, but a thing I say a lot is team sport.
Right.
This is not a me first MFer thing. Like, this is not a story about you. This is a bigger company and this is a team sport. And if you're going to be competitive in the space against your colleagues, if you're going to hoard, if you're going to distrust, it all falls apart. It's a team sport in the round. One of the last workshops I did, they had a board here, and behind me. And I walked in early and I wrote in big red letters, team sport. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, well, that's the basis where we're starting. Like, the whole thing flows from team sport. And then from there, hope is not a strategy. So let's get after it. But if we can get a social agreement on this is a team sport, we can do some things. We can change some behaviors.
I don't know if you watched one of the most recent films done by Apple TV, Formula One, F1, the movie.
Some of it, yeah. Oh no, the movie I've not seen.
With Brad Pitt.
I want to see it.
And they mentioned exactly the same quotes which you had just mentioned about the hope, which is not a strategy, and about the team sport. It's a team sport. It's not an individual run. So it just resonated with me. I was listening to you, and the movie was playing simultaneously in my head. Now, my last question. You've done really well. You began working as a lobbyist. Then you've had your firm. You developed successfully. You developed a successful family. You had a successful exit. Now you are again in a successfully developed new coaching business. What's next for Nick Warner?
What's next for Nick Warner? I think this might be it. I really love what I'm doing, and I like being happy. And I think I've watched, I'm a really motivated person, and I've been around really motivated people, and I've seen people know what they want and then blow right through it on inertia. Like a version of a couple that's been together from 23 years old to 26 years old, and they bought a TV together, couches together, They might rent a house together. Like we're going to get married. And they just ascend and they do their thing. And it doesn't always end well because they knew there were some issues coming in. They got married because it was almost easier. Like I'm on a trajectory right now, and I hope this doesn't sound anything. I mean it. I'm humbled by it, but I'm on a trajectory that would allow me to launch into the stratosphere. I'm in high demand. It's going really well for me, and I love it. But I've never had balance before, ever, since I was a teenager. Probably, I've never been able to sit here and look you in the eye while worrying about my phone the whole time. I've never not been on vacation and gotten phone calls at all hours of the night that pull not just me physically away, but then I come back and I'm a shell of myself.
Right.
Because I'm stressed and I'm really valuing that right now. So I think I want to continue to work at the high level I'm working at. I want to help people. I'm hunting for really interesting projects and I'm walking away from things that don't, like your leadership style and mine. You're not benevolent. You're after the money. You're not showing up. You're treating your staff a certain way. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to go to places that really want to be great, that really want to lift their people up and lift their game up. That's where I'm going to apply myself. And it's been getting juicier and juicier. So I think if I shelter in place, if I stay in this spot that I'm in, which feels like a sweet spot, it just continues to richen up.
Right.
I'm only making myself available for the hours and the days that I'm willing to be. And inside those hours and days, it's shaded in dark. Juicy projects, really interesting people. I'm getting paid well for my trouble, which to be honest with you, when I started, I was a new business coach and I had a lot to offer, but I didn't know my billing system. I wasn't sure what my value was. And over time, I've been able to stick with my business coaching clients, some of them month over month for 4 years into almost 5 years now. And they're telling me with words, they're showing me with spreadsheets. Their people are telling me, they're engaging me over time on bringing me more of their staff and allowing me to more of their team meetings. So just being in that spot continues to get bigger and richer. I don't mean financially, although that too, but in terms of the impact on humans.
Right.
Somebody said to me the other day, a later stage career gentleman said to me today in our Zoom call, he said, man, when you were on site last week, we have never talked that way as a group. It was really uncomfortable. I don't know how I feel about it. And I looked at him and he goes, it really needed to happen, but it was really uncomfortable. And I thought to myself, yay, awesome. Because that's what needed to happen. There's trust issues.
Right.
And I came there to teach. I came there to workshop. But I've been meeting individually with the members of this executive team. And I knew what it was. It was a little bit of age discrimination. Not discrimination, but looking down your nose. It was a little bit of like, you don't know what I know. Thank you very much. It was a little bit of, you don't come from the same place. You don't have the same credibility. And they were telling me individually, and then I'm leading a workshop standing up where we're going to talk about Kumbaya. And I'm looking at them and they're looking at me. And I asked them, it was 8 a.m. too, it was early. Like, do you want me to teach in a workshop or do you want me to sit down and let's talk? And they go, let's talk. That was the coolest meeting I've ever been in my entire life. It was 4 hours. We talked super openly. We got a lot of stuff out. It was really hard. And then the next 3 months, I was broken into individual sessions with each one of them. And when the gentleman said to me, we've never talked that way, but it was our breakthrough. It started to solve for the thing of like, they're new to the group and you're making them feel terrible because you're telling them their input isn't valued. And so this person who's in a small leadership team that, by the way, when he leaves has 250 people in his division, his shoulders are slumped, he's resentful. She feels the same way. And it's not from one person, it's in the mix. So if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it, because hope is not enough here. We're going to have to get through this a good old fashioned way.
Right.
Ryan Holiday in his book talks about the obstacle is the way. It's trust is sitting right in the middle of the room. Trust and communication. Do we want to talk about it? Do we want to go to that, or we want to soft foot around it? And you better be careful as the coach how you get to that, because it'll go kaboom on you also if you get to it too soon, too quick, if you out somebody. So really paying attention like to the sociology in that room. But it's soulful when you can find that middle, like really soulful. Somebody the other day told me he's an EVP, executive vice president, and I'm telling you, if I would have been keeping tallies on the number of times he told me it was somebody else's fault, super talented. At the end, I asked permission to speak my version of truth to power. Yeah, of course, Nick, anything. I was like, I'm going to read back to you the number of people you think are getting it done. They're all stars in everybody else's eyes, including mine. I know each one of these people. You are hyper critical. And I went through the list one by one by one by one. And I saw him just kind of go, you got some work to do. Like your lenses on every other person at this level is coal colored, and these are really talented people, and it's not going well for you. And so I stayed on that. I called him on the weekend. I texted him a few times. I asked for updates. The update came from like, I had a 2-hour coffee with the first person I was telling you about. Okay, that's a good start. How'd it go? Pretty good. Okay, we're going to stay on that. Are you willing to stay on that? I am. Okay. Because there's no shortcuts through this thing. You pissed a lot of people off, and your work product's great. The people thing is not great. I had a meeting yesterday with the managing partner of a statewide law firm, and it's going really well. I've been there 4+ years. It's never a story about me. I'm a bit player. I'm just an advisor. I'm not a decision maker. And he went through his budget, and we went through his the lead group, as you'll call them, like the executive team. I said, I'd be foolish not to ask you at the end of this incredible report, what is the reason things are going so well? And he said, the culture, the synergy, the teamwork, it's so efficient. We have no drag. We have no drama. It's the people, Nick. And I was like, I'm so glad to hear that, because that's what I think I'm doing here. And it wasn't me that fixed it. It was as much him as it was me. But it reminds me, if you can get the people part right, you got a great shot. And without it, it's just drag and static and headwind.
Right.
So it's really heartening for me to hear the product's the same. The people have really risen to this.
What a beautiful story. Nick Warren, thank you so much for joining us today. It was truly, I feel truly blessed. I enjoy having these in-depth conversations, and your depth is truly amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. And instead of saying I hope to record, we will plan to record again soon with you, because you are such a great book of wisdom that is just a shame to not share with the world and help them come to you for advice where they're better.
That's a nice thing to say. I keep a list of my on my desk of Nick notes, because I meet with smart people all day. So I have notes on their file that's about them, and then I write down the smart things they say. So I'm constantly learning all day. My hope is that when I come back for our next meeting, I'm smarter, because I've heard a lot of smart things from people I work with, and I write them down and try to adjust to these smart things I hear. Right. It's like a regenerating education almost every day.
Yeah.
So thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.